Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me today is Sam West, and we are going to be talking about the spell Crown of Madness. All right, this one seems pretty cool. I'll be honest. This just the effect, the glowing eyes, the iron crown, the what it
twisted
does.
crown of jagged iron. Pretty metal.
There you
I'm
go.
here for it.
That's even better.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Sam?
This spell's sweet. I think if it were not an all or nothing, I would say this is how Saber Dice should be done. In that how you have to use it mechanically requires you maintaining an investment. You have to keep using actions to control and maintain it. But you can get more than just the enemy action out of it. You can also weaponize it to be a helpful action that you're taking using the enemy. It's very cool. It isn't going to be great in every single situation. There are ways that enemies can play around it. There's ways that enemies can get their actions back. But you can still conceivably use it as a save or die that gives you a real big resource advantage.
What are these? You said ways that they can get their actions back. What is that?
Okay, so the spell functions, you have to hit a humanoid with it. Once you hit a humanoid with them, they make a wisdom saving throw or they're charmed. While they're charmed, they get the crown, the madness, all that fun stuff. It has to use its action before moving on each of its turns. That is where this is the interactive stuff. To make the melee attack against a creature other than itself. So if there are no hostile or creatures around it, it can take a regular action. It doesn't have to take an action at your command to attack the things. If it is swinging madly at things around it, there have to be things around it for it to swing madly at. If that isn't there, it doesn't have to do that action, from my understanding.
So wait,
it says
if it doesn't have anything within its movement rate, like
if it is, so this is before it moves. This is how the spell works. On this,
so if there's not somebody right next to him.
Yes, it even says the target can act normally on its turn if you choose no creature or if none are within reach. This means you want the spell to be affecting a creature that only has mainly enemies around it, and you have to keep those enemies in place. But if you do, you are conceivably getting their best combatant and is you for a little bit, which is very cool.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Oh, sorry, I didn't look at what else I was supposed to ask. All right. Sorry. You got in your notes here, type restricted. What does that mean?
Oh, it just means this only affects humanoids. So that's an important caveat.
Right.
This spell is not going to scale particularly well. This is something you're going to probably cast at like second or third, fourth, fifth level tops. And then you're going to see like, oh, things I would rather be Crown of Madnessing. I mean, sometimes you're going to Crown of Madness like the spellcaster that's next to another spellcaster and they'll just start punching each other. And denying them those actions is useful, but it's at its best whenever the Bandit Lord is the one you're Crown of Madnessing, and whenever you're the Bugbear Captain that leapt down from the skies, the Dragonborn Pirate that's, breathing its breath weapon and stuff. That's where your Crown of Madness is going to be best. And that often isn't going to scale particularly well as the encounters get more and more high CR monsters, as you get things that are not humanoids as your sort of standard encounter look. So this is going to be something you're going to get a lot of use out early, conceivably, and less later. This also is the kind of spell, though, that isn't going to be good in every encounter. Unlike something like Hold Person, even if it is a humanoid, there's still going to be encounters where Hold Person is just going to always hold them, and Crown of Madness is just, well, it's just three people that are moderately split apart, and Crown of Madness is just going to make them attack a different one of my allies at random. That's not super useful.
Now, can they make ranged attacks?
Wisdom saving throw must use its action before moving to make a melee attack against a creature.
All right, yeah, because that didn't seem to fit within. Yeah, it's hard if you're going insane to take the time to line up and shoot an arrow.
So this will definitely be that at its best, right? Where you are using it against someone with a great axe that is around other people you want them to be hitting with a great axe. Those situations will often put you in like coin flips as to whether or not they're hitting your friends or not. But you do deny them, if they have multi-attack, you deny them multi-attack because they have to use their action to make an attack. And that's just their action. That's just what they do. They can't use it as part of their multi-attack. They just take the action to do the random hit. Or the hit of your choice. You mentally choose it. Never mind. This isn't random. You can always pick them to hit their enemies. I'm sorry. I was thinking of a different spell. I was thinking of Confusion.
All right, so I was thinking... If they don't take any actions, does the spell end or do they get a saving throw or something? All right.
They get a saving throw at the end of their turn regardless, which sucks.
Okay.
This will probably only last 2 or 3 rounds. at best. At worst, it won't happen at all, and you'll feel really bad. That being said, again, denying the best action on the enemy team conceivably and getting that action is definitely worth it. If you can get 2 attacks from this against one of their friends, if you're taking their 2d8 axe wielding Goliath and smashing into the nearby creature to their right, their comrade that's trying to assist in killing you all, you're denying them their main action and getting an extra action to hit them with, which is costing you your action. So you're net positive 1 action, which is good. And it also is, you're not getting hit as much, so you're also going to continue to be in the fight longer and have the ability to sort of interact and kill things a little bit easier.
Now, does the usefulness of this depend on initiative order? Because it seems like if you see your friend's eyes start growing and thorny crowns or whatever spiking out of their head, then to take a couple steps away.
Absolutely. So you do have the worst case scenario where you can make them use their action to attack your buddy still. So if they're still within range of your friend, you can still have them hit your friend. This is where, and I think this might be one of the most underrated action options you have. When you get to make an attack opportunity of somebody, you can choose to replace that attack with a grapple. So if you have a friend nearby and people try to retreat from the Crown of Madness target, opportunity attack to grapple them. Unless they disengage and waste their action to get away, you're going to be able to maintain and hold them in place. So that is somewhat useful, even with the initiative order kind of problems. It lets you you get a little mini game where the party's trying to keep everyone within range of the mad creature, which is neat. And it doesn't cost that much oftentimes, because if they are trying to flee and they're not disengaging, you get grapples for free to cost a reaction that you might have probably otherwise not been using. So yes, initiative order will definitely affect the power of Crown of Madness. If the creature you crown is directly after you, it's definitely at its best. So if you have a low initiative order and they have a high initiative order, or if you're both in like middle initiative order, that's where they're going to be great. If you're both at high initiative orders but you're in front, right? It's just because initiative is kind of like an unending ring. It doesn't really have a in practice. It doesn't really have a front and end. It just has like a continuous string. So if you are the last person to go and they're the first person to go and you Crown of Madness them, they're just going to immediately act after you and start killing their friends, which is pretty great.
Right.
But if they go way before, if they go like in the middle somewhere and then 10 people go and then you go and then 10 people go and then it goes, things are going to necessarily get messed up. It's going to be harder to make it consistent, but it's not going to be most encounters anyway. Most encounters are going to have 5-6 people in it total.
Yeah, I'm starting to second guess my original assessment of this. It sounds to me, after this chat we're having, that this is a lot more difficult to make effective than I had previously thought.
Yes, but there's so I think with certainty you'll see fights where this will get value. I think there will absolutely be times whenever your front line hits their front line and you take one of their 3 nulls and make it hit the other 1 null, and then you have a 4v2 as opposed to a 3v3, and that is powerful. I think that's going to be that is a pretty regular instance of events that occur in low level Dungeons and Dragons play, which is where the spell's going to be cast anyway. It definitely won't be every encounter. This is not a spell that is on the same par as Whole Person, like I mentioned earlier. This isn't a spell that's competing with a lot of the really powerful saber dice, but it does look really cool. And it comes with an effect that is genuinely good. It isn't always going to be good. And I like my saber dice to not always be good, because then you're like, this is a great moment for Crown of Madness. It specifically gets to run this encounter. And that's great. This feels actually a lot less bad as a DM tool than something like Hold or Dominate Person, because you and the party have a meaningful way of playing around it and getting your player that's Crown of Madness as their actions back. And that feels cool. This doesn't feel nearly as bad to get hit with than does Dominate Person. When someone gets Dominate Person, they try to start mauling you regardless of what you do. That just sucks. Whenever you get Crown of Madness, you at least have a small window where you can say, let's all get away from him so we can take his action regularly. And then you can kind of play around that. I think it's more fun from a player perspective as a DM tool. I think this is a pretty fun player tool to use against monsters that are brainless or that are dumb or that aren't going to be trying the tactics to get away from the thing. It takes concentration, so you can stop concentration breaking like a regular saber die like this kind of does. All in all, I think this is kind of what I want the power level of the saber dice to be in the game. Most are much better than this. This is still interesting and has a unique angle to attack from that I like.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be one that I'm going to use, because I'm not going to use it.
I don't think most people will.
I still like it. I am a fan of these kind of things where I can take, an enemy and turn him into a temporary ally, or at least enemy of the other enemies. But I feel like I wouldn't use this effectively.
I think what would make the spell meaningfully better, and I think it's something you could try it out if you wanted this to be a better spell at your tables, and you're the DMing it, or you're talking to the DM about it, and you're like, man, I wish Crowd of Madness switched a little bit better. I want to use it as a main spell, but I can't. Instead of making the whiz save at the end of every turn, make it if they don't take the action to hit things, because then your enemy has to respond and interact with it if they want the effect to end or break your concentration. There's already two ways this can end then still. And this already has the downside of sometimes not doing anything if they can mitigate the effect. You might as well make that the attached condition to it. Then it sometimes randomly ends, because that's how the saves in this edition work.
Yeah.
More dynamic ways for spells to end, I think, is interesting. So if you did want to make the spell a little bit better, if you did want to build around it, your DM's open to changing things, that's an option you could do. But if not, which is definitely going to be most, the spell will still be fine. And while there'll be players that aren't going to get use out of it. There are players going to be like, I don't think I can reasonably get this spell to work the way I want it as often as I want it. You're not going to put it on your character sheet.
Yeah. And that's where I am. All right. Well, we got anything else to say about this one?
3 out of 5. This is middle of the road, save or die. It has certain moments where it's going to shine. This isn't changing the game for anyone.
Yeah. I'll agree with that assessment. It looks cool. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to use it. Probably. I might give it a whirl.
It's worth it. It's fun sometimes.
Yeah.
It will lead to some pretty memorable fights if you do get to work a couple times.
All right. Well, that was Crown of Madness. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. We will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.